The form of media we chose for our media representation project was an independent film by the director Tony Kaye entitled Detachment. This film chronicles the life of a long-term high school substitute teacher, Mr. Henry Barth, who is played by actor Adrian Brody. The film narrative includes scenes where Mr. Barth interacts with students inside and outside of the classroom. The setting mainly takes place in a failing high school. Test scores are pitiful, teachers are apathetic and despondent, and most of the students are troubled teens with horrible attitudes. Over time, Mr. Barth makes a positive impact on his students' lives by expressing that he truly does care, but not being a menacing and selfish teacher. His soft-spoken demeanor and adult shyness in the classroom are charming and soothing at the same time. The students feel comfortable around Mr. Barth, especially a suicidal teen named Meredith who confides in Mr. Barth, begging him at one point in the movie to reassure her that everything is going to be alright. Tragically, Meredith takes her own life at the end of the movie, leaving Mr. Barth and the entire school shocked.
In our project, we have chosen two essential scenes to interpret film techniques and the portrayal of a teacher. In both clips, Mr. Barth is performing a monologue, but it is important to be aware of the circumstances. In the first scene, Mr. Barth is describing the significance of reading, and this is before Meredith's suicide. In the second scene, Mr. Barth is reading a passage from Poe's The House of Usher, after Meredith has killed herself. We will go into further detail comparing and contrasting the two clips in regards to Meredith's timeline in the movie. We will first play the clip, then go back to discuss the techniques we identified from that clip.
To deliberately believe in lies while knowing they're false. Examples of this in everyday life. Oh, I need to be pretty to be happy. I need surgery to be pretty. I need to be thin, famous, fashionable. Our young men today are being told that women are whores, bitches, things to be screwed, beaten, shit on, and shamed. This is a marketing holocaust. 24 hours a day, for the rest of our lives, the powers that be are hard at work, dumbing us to death. So, to defend ourselves and fight against assimilating this dullness into our thought processes, we must learn to read, to stimulate our own imaginations, to cultivate our own consciousness, our own belief systems. We all need these skills to defend, to preserve our own minds.
The scene opens up with a medium shot of Mr. Barth standing up. This means only half of his body is shown, it is the upper half. As Mr. Barth goes into his monologue, the camera takes close-up shots of the students' faces as they are listening to him. Each of the students, Meredith included, appear concentrated and interested. Also, each of the students' eyes are off-centered, which is a frame technique called off-framing. Basically, they are looking at and paying attention to Mr. Barth as he talks. As Mr. Barth delivers his speech, his attitude and body language make him appear confrontational, serious, and determined to teach this class the purpose of reading. Additionally, as the camera captures Mr. Barth, we are seeing him in a low-angle shot, which emphasizes the place of power Mr. Barth is in. It is important to take note that through the whole scene there is natural lighting in the classroom. It is important to know that the light comes in from the window to the left of the room, almost illuminating Mr. Barth as an important figure. Another point to take note of is that there is no music in this clip, and that Meredith's face is featured multiple times. Overall, during most of the clip, Mr. Barth is looking at the students' faces, not directly at the camera. This off-focus shot shows that Mr. Barth is pointedly addressing the students and not necessarily the viewers of the film. We both agreed that this is important because it shows an attentiveness to teaching.
You're walking down the hallway or you're in class. How many of you have ever felt the weight pressing down on you? I have. Everyone? Well, Poe wrote about these things over 100 years ago. So, as we read, we can see that the House of Usher is not merely an old, decrepit castle in disrepair. It's also a state of being. During the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of that year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing alone on horseback through a singularly dreary tract of country, and at length found myself, as the shades of evening drew on, within view of the melancholy house of Usher. I know not how it was, but with the first glimpse of the building, a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I looked upon the simple landscape of the domain, upon the bleak walls, upon the white trunks of decayed trees, with an utter depression of soul. There was an iciness, a sinking, sickening of the heart.
The scene opens with another medium shot of Mr. Barth, now sitting down on his desk, not standing, as he lectures. The viewer quickly notices a drastic difference in Mr. Barth's manner. He appears melancholy, distraught, and unenthusiastic. Music begins playing in the film once Mr. Barth begins to read The House of Usher. As he is talking before he begins reading, the camera takes a close-up shot of his face, and the viewer can tell his eyes are downcast, but he's not reading yet. The tone of his voice resembles a person delivering a eulogy, and in some ways it is, since Meredith has just killed herself. Compared to the first scene, the camera does a close-up shot of the students again, but this time most of the students are not looking at Mr. Barth, but looking down at their desks, bored. Then there is a close-up of Meredith's old desk, but it is empty. Compared to the first scene, there are noticeably more close-up camera shots of Mr. Barth at his desk. There are fewer longer shots that depicted Mr. Barth as an enthusiastic teacher that is trying to engage with the class, like in the first scene. As Mr. Barth gets into reading, the camera does a montage of building shots of the school, hallways, classrooms, etc. One can obviously tell that the school appears dilapidated and destroyed. Compared to the monologue in the classroom, the montage of shots outside of Mr. Barth's room shows that sometimes the problems students face are much larger and more important than a class. With each different shot of the school, the camera zooms out slowly, casting an eerie feel to the entire scene.
This movie portrays the high school education system as failing. Students are not learning, teachers are not caring, and the general atmosphere is tense. Parents take advantage of the administration through the special education program by insisting that their children's behaviors are due to disabilities. One particular teacher takes pills every day in order to get through each class. In comparison to the other teachers, Mr. Barth does not let the students get to him. He is formed as a solid, level-headed teacher who speaks candidly to his students while having their best interests in mind. Throughout the movie, Barth provides commentary on the realities of teaching. Sadly, he views his time at the school as a failure, though, because of Meredith's suicide. However, as a once aggressive student comments at the end, quote, "You were the only teacher who's not a dickhead, Mr. Barth," supports the fact that his impact was not minimal, but rather wide-reaching. His collected and kind attitude allowed him to gain the respect of each of his students. Barth vows to never stay in one school for too long, but is shown to have stayed at the high school after Meredith dies. Perhaps this is due to feelings of guilt, as he was the only teacher who understood her and really was upset in her decision to kill herself. All in all, the majority of teachers in Detachment are portrayed as inept or unwilling to be successful. However, since Mr. Barth is such a polar opposite of the teachers at the school, this illustrates the hope that is out there for the high school education system. Kids can feel that they're respected, appreciated, and cared for, both academically and emotionally.
After much discussion of Detachment, we both agree with the film's portrayal of teachers. We think Detachment deals with the personal and emotional side of teaching, sides that are usually ignored in teaching movies, in a realistic and captivating way. It's obvious that the majority of teachers at Mr. Barth's school are burnt out. The one math teacher clings to the fence every morning, summoning up the stamina to go about his day, and asks, "Can you really see me?" when Mr. Barth questions if he is okay. As education majors, we have spent semesters reading, learning, and practicing what to do in a classroom in order to make the experience successful. Detachment provides insight on what not to do, or rather what happens when you are an educator and despise your job. Furthermore, this movie features a teacher, Mr. Barth, who is unique and inspiring for students in the English education program. This man demonstrates complete calmness and mindfulness by not ever getting angry with a troubling student. Instead, Mr. Barth's brilliance lies in his strategies to deal with aggressive teens. Talk to them like they matter. The creators of the movie portray Mr. Barth as someone who is considerate of the needs of those distressed teens, and this is groundbreaking for students who are not used to be cared for. We can even relate this to the film Blackboard Jungle, since the main teacher of the movie considers leaving his troubled school in pursuit of an easier teaching experience, but realizes he has the skills and passion to help make a difference in these students' lives. Overall, the film techniques in Detachment illustrate the culture of teaching in a failing school very well. As a result of this, the main teacher, Mr. Barth, is shown in a positive light, but not an exceedingly wonderful one. The movie remains realistic and never portrays Mr. Barth as an education hero, but rather just as a good, solid teacher who ends up improving the lives of his students. We believe Detachment is a movie any educator should take the time to view in order to gain a glimpse into the workings of a dysfunctional school and learn the importance of how having hope and being there for your students may be above all the greatest thing a successful teacher can do.
These cold and damp white mornings I have grown weary.